Welcome back to the Quiet Onset podcast powered by Cineman. I'm Ewan Gruff, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan Teely.
Welcome back, everybody. This week's episode, we have a number of things we're talking about, but we're going to discuss our thoughts around the Creed 3 trailer, or Creed. No, Creed 3, that's how we're going to say it. Starring Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, and Jonathan Majors.
And then I watched Black Adam, Amsterdam, and the DAHMER series over on Netflix, and you kept busy playing games, right?
Yep, a lot of games. Not a lot of media this week, like movies and TV shows, but I have a reason as to why I've been playing a bunch of games. And finally, Bros. The best rom-com of the year? Question mark, upside down, question mark. Ewan and I both watched it this week. Or what? Yeah, Spanish question mark. Ewan and I both watched it this week, and we shall fill you in with our thoughts.
Glad to be doing that, so let's get into it and cue up the intro. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
Welcome back, Lachlan. Hope you're doing all right. And let's kick things off straight away and get into it, talking about the news. As always, if you want to skip around to anything specific that interests you, there are time codes linked below for all of that. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for the weekly podcast. But let's jump into the quick news. And we got a couple of items on the agenda this week. I'll also put a disclaimer up for general spoilers for the post-credit scene of Black Adam, because it's kind of what I need to mention in part of the quick news. So if you don't want to hear that, I guess skip over to our Creed trailer reaction. But first up, Harrison Ford is replacing William Hurt, who recently passed away, as General Ross in the MCU. Matt Reeves has plans for a bunch of movies around the Batman villains. There's already a series in the works with the Penguin over on HBO Max, and apparently now a couple of films are in the works. There's the potential for Henry Cavill to return as Superman, as well, this is the disclaimer warning here. He appears at the end of Black Adam and basically goes, "Black Adam, you're Black Adam," basically. That's the extent of his cameo appearance. And then apparently James Gunn is working on 2 secret DC projects that are already in the works. So quick news, Lachlan. Do you have any thoughts on those news items?
Yeah, a couple of quick thoughts for the quick news. Obviously, Harrison Ford joining the MCU is quite exciting. Because I do like Harrison Ford as an actor, just mainly because he's reached that status where it's like, it's Harrison Ford. Same with a number of actors. Most importantly, like Jeff Goldblum. You know, you see Jeff Goldblum, you go, it's Jeff Goldblum. I'm very excited to see Jeff Goldblum-esque characteristics in this character. Obviously, playing General Ross, that's exciting. So, I again, he's a very serious character, and Harrison Ford will play that character probably very well. Matt Reeves' sequels make sense because of the success of the Batman, phenomenal Batman movie. So is kind of exciting to see what they do with him. He's a very talented creator, so I would be excited to see, solo villain movies. Joker was very successful. Obviously, if he does something around that kind of style, not obviously exactly the same, but in that kind of taste where they take that character and definitely go on a ride with it. Henry Cavill, I'm happy to see him come back. Man of Steel is one of the best DC movies. If they can bring sort of the same talent back to that, obviously not Zack Snyder, but obviously bring some sort of talent and make another good Man of Steel movie, that'll be awesome. And I guess James Gunn's projects make total sense again. All of this is just very successful. Like the last 3 points that the quick news has is very successful things. Let's have more of that. And that makes
Yeah.
sense because where DC has gone, and this is pretty much is all DC news, where
Yeah.
DC has gone recently has just been the shithole. It's just been a toilet flush. And
Mhm.
the Warner Brothers CEO stepped down, I believe. Or not the Warner Brothers CEO, but the one who was overseeing the DC universe stepped down,
Yeah.
I believe, just after Black Adam's terrible reception. And I don't blame him. He's been around for some of the best DC movies and some of the worst DC
Yeah.
movies, and obviously where that has been taken has not been very successful. So where they go from here, they've got a lot
Is-
of ingredients. You know, there are a lot of
It's still
ingredients they
really
can put
up in
together.
the air, yeah, because like this, especially like this Henry Cavill cameo was something that was pretty much shoehorned in last minute. They shot a version where he's like headless, but you just don't see his head. It's just his silhouette or whatever, something like that. But you know, someone coming in like The Rock, like Dwayne Johnson, having that kind of influence to I guess make his character bigger than maybe it would have place in the DC universe that they're establishing. Just because he brings that star power is also something interesting, because I think J.J. Abrams was in the early works of working on a Superman film, but not with Henry Cavill, I think, anymore. So it feels like a mess where, like you said, like the person responsible for DC has stepped down, and now it's like this well, this hole that's empty for the power, and who's going to take it? Is it going to be Matt Reeves or James Gunn or maybe J.J. Abrams, who steps in because they don't have like the MCU like Kevin Feige, right, for the DC universe, and I think
And the
they kind of
interesting
want
thing
that, right?
is, they're
Yeah.
all very different filmmakers. I'm not.
Right,
I
yeah.
do not believe Matt Reeves' filmmaking style is the same as James Gunn, and it's the same with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
They're all very different, and there
Mhm.
has to be some. Well, at the
Sort
same
of
time, I don't
unity,
want
yeah.
there to be any kind of unity or cohesion to any of these films, because some of my favorite DC films have been the unique ones. They have been very different, and that's kind of the issue with MCU. It's entered this formula, this box of it's the same thing but with a bit of glam here, and it just sometimes works really well. And obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy is a great example. And then the next iteration is the exact same thing, and it's kind of boring. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was honestly not that exciting. And it's the same with Ragnarok. Really awesome twist. The second time around, very boring. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what these guys do, and I kind of don't want a universe that's together. I'd love to see these interesting, standalone, no attachment to it, but, you know, incorporate it as a multiverse thing in a way. You know, have
Yeah.
Henry Cavill be the Superman in every DC universe, have, you know, an interesting Batman, but then it makes interesting, like, then it's interesting to have, you know, Batfleck, and then you have Robert Pattinson's Batman. Like, which one do we use now? Because,
Yeah.
you know, Matt Reeves universe or the Snyderverse, because, or the James Gunn verse, because they're all very different universes. Are they going to incorporate it? Well, we don't know what they're going to do. Warner Brothers is on this.
I
very
think they
interesting roller
themselves
coaster.
don't know what to do at the moment still, although like there's a ton of projects that are in the works, projects that are also pretty much done, but I think they're also really set to
Like
release
Batgirl.
that Flash movie. Batgirl is so done. I guess that we're never going to get that. Just for legal purposes, they can't ever turn a profit on that. Yeah, weird legal stuff. We went over it a couple of weeks ago. But like they really set on that Flash movie. So I feel like they have confidence that it's like obviously Ezra Miller, they are the problem there for them. But like I think they have confidence that movie is important.
You know what it could
because
be?
they don't want to scrap it, you know.
I've just thought about it. If they don't want to scrap the Flash movie, which is obviously
Yeah.
it's incorporating a multiverse.
reset,
It's
right.
establishing a multiverse in a way, because
Yeah.
obviously we have a Batman. Do I want to spoil this or do I not want to spoil this for people who? Anyway, there's a Batman that's
can spoil
rumored to
Batman.
be showing up in Michael Keaton's Batman. Is
right. Yeah,
showing
yeah.
up in this film, which
Mm-hmm.
is obviously, as I said, you've got Batfleck, you've got Robert Pattinson, and now you're going to have Michael Reeves' Batman in a universe that's meant to kind of, I mean, extended but shared multiverse kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does the Flash to continue DC's universe, is it necessary to have it as a storytelling purpose? Like, as much as obviously you have some controversial things, they could have a plot point in this film that's so important for their continuation where they can go, all right. Same way that Marvel's done it, how there's multiverse now, right? Even though Doctor Strange was trash, it's a very important movie in establishing the fact that they can now have mutants, they can now go anywhere they want. Is Flashpoint the multiverse of madness of the DCEU? Shit film, but very important when it comes to what they're going to do in the future.
And again, DC can just kind of ride on the back of Marvel already having established that for audiences, and them having, like, since, I guess, Spider-Man and WandaVision for 2 years now. By the time this comes out, 3 years, they have established, like, they established a multiverse for general audiences as well. So I think they can just piggyback on that and do whatever. I think that's the best call for them, to just, like, not try to streamline it and I guess condense down what individual artists and directors can bring to the table to create individual projects like that. But I think that's it for the not so quick news, because that extended into a whole discussion about the future of DC.
It was quick news, but it became a discussion. It's a discussion.
Exactly, but
section.
It's like, I think it's really interesting because it's one of the paths that isn't as clear, where I think with the MCU, it's just like, let's build to the next big thing. And DC is just, let's build something. I don't know what. So that's interesting to follow as it develops further. But let's have a look at this week's trailer. Singular. Only one trailer we're looking at this week for the third film in the Creed trilogy now. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be the concluding film. It doesn't have that, like, emotional gut punch impact of a final in the trilogy. So I feel like we'll get more Creed films down the line. We get Michael B. Jordan again as the titular Creed, and Jonathan Majors absolutely yoked out of his mind. Apparently, I guess Kang the Conqueror is also going to be pretty yoked in the MCU films, but man, oh man, he looks like a really worthy opponent to Michael B. Jordan. Looks incredible. I think the trailer shows a bit too much, right, Lachlan? We can agree on that. It basically gives away the whole plot.
You could definitely
unfortunately
make a case that it says it shows too much, for sure.
With these sports movies, or especially these boxing movies, it's so much about the momentum in the individual scenes that I kind of it's built up to something. There's emotional stakes. He either wins or loses, and that's just what happens in a movie like this. Unless you're like Rocky, whatever, 4 or 5, where the plot goes a bit into different directions. But here, it's kind of clear what you'll be getting. You'll just get another enemy from back in the day. They got a connection. But I mean, I'm not going to go see Creed for that reason. I'm going for, like, the montage scenes and the great choreographed fights. So I don't mind too much that this trailer shows too much, but yeah. I mean, if you're wary about basically seeing a whole movie cut down, then you're pretty much getting that with this trailer.
So Creed, never seen it.
Only the first one, or
never seen him.
Never seen him. All right. Have you seen the Rocky films?
I've seen Rocky.
Rocky, okay.
So I'm thinking, this is my thoughts. I might have to go down the Rocky universe. I might have to do the Rocky MCU.
It's worthwhile. I've watched them all. They're worthwhile.
I think Rocky is a phenomenal film. I do, hands down. It's phenomenal. It's great. It's same with, like, gangster films. I've never been a big gangster movie guy until I watched The Departed. I was like, gangster films are sick. Now, obviously, The Departed is a very interesting gangster film. It's not like a traditional, like, Goodfellas or anything like that. But I fell in love with gangster films. I feel like that's going to happen with boxing movies. I've seen a couple boxing films, and I think they're great. But for me, I've never just been, hell yeah, I'm going to go watch that boxing movie when it comes out, because I've just never had a desire to go and watch it. Raging Bull, Rocky, those are two that just come to mind for me of being like the two boxing films. The Fighter as well. That's actually a good one to talk about.
The Fighter, yeah.
But for me, I feel like I probably have to go down the Rocky lane and just just every boxing film maybe I should watch at this point in time. I should go re-watch every single boxing film ever made. But I've never
I'd be
seen
down for
Creed.
that.
I've
That
never
sounds
seen
fun.
Creed 2. I've heard
Mm.
great things. They're very successful. Creed 1, off of a $35 million budget, grossed almost 200 million 170 worldwide. Creed 2, $50 million budget, 200 million worldwide. So a very successful films, and I've heard a lot of positive stuff about it. Obviously, first one directed by Ryan Coogler, great director, phenomenal. I don't personally know the second director, Stephen Cable Jr. Don't think I've seen any of his work. No, I haven't. Haven't seen any of his work, but again, I heard a lot of positive things about this entire series. Maybe it's time for me to go down the rocky. I've heard it's a very rocky road when it gets to the later Rocky films, but the Rocky experience of boxing in cinema.
Yeah. Well, this one I think is directed by Michael B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan. Yeah.
Yeah, his directing debut. And I think the first one is definitely like a bit more solid than the second one. They do struggle with the making things new, and it's basically a bit faster than, I guess, faster paced than the Rocky films. Because it does have, like, it takes you along for the ride of the 40 years that have passed since Rocky, and it's kind of expecting you to keep up with that pace and kind of know to go through like the ropes a bit faster, to do a bit something different. And I think they're now in the era where they can just like pin him up against like some other fighter that he can go against and have a sick story and some sick fights. And yeah, looking forward to this. I like the idea of watching all the boxing films because I think there aren't too many. There's probably like under if you like, obviously there's a ton in the Rocky and Creed franchise, but including like the one-off films, like including excluding the whole Rocky franchise, I think there's you can count them on one or two hands, probably, like the significant boxing films. But yeah, looking forward to that. That will release, I think, in 2023. I didn't write down the release date for that. But yeah, hopefully not too long until we get to see
Rookie journalism.
Creed 3.
Rookie journalism.
Yeah, still on my way. Adrian, get the release dates!
Yeah, the release dates.
All right, so let's get to what we've been watching. Or I guess I should say what we've been playing, or what you've been playing. So Lachlan, you had a big gaming week.
How about we just catch up? What have we been doing?
How you been doing?
Look, I haven't had look, my week, I wasn't in one of those moods to sit down and watch something. I wanted to actively engage with what I was doing this week. So it ended up being a bit of a video game week for me because a number of games released, and I had a couple of games I decided I wanted to replay just for nostalgia sake, and also for a sequel that's about to release. So first of all, big multiplayer game, Overwatch 2, obsessed to the shit with it. So much fun. The gameplay loop is in the it's addicting as all hell. That's the easiest way to say it. It's addicting as all hell. That's basically what I've been doing. And I've been watching like TV shows on the side. I've been, just stuff that has like a bajillion episodes, like X-Files or something, just watching something on the side. So I've been watching it, like X-Files. There's plenty of X-Files film episodes that I've never seen before, like the Monster of the Week ones. I did like a big binge of X-Files like years ago, but I skipped a lot of the Monster of the Week episodes because they were so bad. I've just kind of gone back and watched a few episodes here or there, but nothing significant. Assassin's Creed Unity, super hated upon release, but has become kind of like a loved one. I played Black Flag like 3 weeks ago and moved on to Unity because Unity is just stunning. It's one of the most beautiful games. Paris is just, gorgeous. It's like so beautiful. Nostalgia stake is basically what I'm doing there. And next month we've got God of War Ragnarok launching. And that is God of War. Phenomenal storytelling. I really do. Biggest reason I play games is mostly single player games is what I play. I've played Last of Us religiously, Uncharted religiously. I've played God of War like 3 or 4 times. Just games with a story really, really get to me, and that's why I like
Right.
them. And I'm replaying the 2018 God of War to continue on for this sequel that I've heard some pretty positive things about, which I'm very excited for. That's been my week, man. That's basically been my week. That's all I've been doing.
I mean, it sounds like a busy week regardless. It's just not been filled with a lot of
like
movies
I
or
watched
new
Bros.
releases.
Bros is what we're
You
talking
did
about
watch
today.
Bros.
I watched that, and honestly, it was a
Yeah.
really good film, and we're gonna get into that eventually. And it was like it's kind
Yeah.
of getting me in the mood to watch stuff again.
Yeah.
Like I really like it when a film does that. But yeah, basically, it's just been the new God of War's coming out, so I've got to catch up on the story of the original one, and in between, I've been playing things lightly. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about doing that as well. I don't know if I own the first God of War, but I was thinking, well, maybe play this one. Gives me a reason to play it, but I don't think I'll fit it in.
You never
Unfortunately.
play games.
I
As
never
the
do.
resident,
I think
I'm the resident actual. I'm the gamer
Resident-
of us.
resident actual
the resident
gamer?
here.
Yeah.
You're the resident. I'm gonna buy every game on Steam and have the best Steam library, but I'm gonna put about an hour into every game.
Yeah, I enjoyed that hour very much. Maybe down the line, I'll get some reason to play games. I don't know if what will has to be the reason. Maybe I gotta start game reviews over here to force me to play through something. I think that's kind of what keeps me going. We'll see. Anyways, I watched a couple new releases that I can go over quickly because first we were thinking, well, maybe Black Adam is our main review of the week, and then a bit reluctant because we do try to focus a bit more on the smaller films, and obviously the bigger films are fun to talk about because more people have seen them. But with Black Adam, you said like there's been a generally bad reception. I think that's mostly from critics. I think it's been kind of mixed when it comes to general audiences. It just doesn't have like a great score on probably Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic. And I haven't even checked the other platforms, but it's been doing well, at least money-wise, box office been doing well. But it's basically a movie that's been in the works for like 15 years now. I think like The Rock has been interested in this character for a while. And what you get is just a movie that feels really dated in the way that it just basically does a basic superhero story. You get fun side characters. I think we talked about it when it was announced like over a year ago that Noah Centineo is going to play Atom Smasher. And there's a bunch of other like fun performances in there. But I think it gets dragged down by the end. I really didn't like the ending fights. The villain is not very memorable, and I think The Rock works better in an ensemble, but he's such a big actor now that he wants to carry a film by himself. He's the most paid actor, I think, for a couple of years now, and he's just not that great an actor. There's no real depth to the character other than he's tough. So I felt myself scrapping
man,
for anything
that
to hold
is
on
character
to.
depth. Strength,
He's
character depth.
character depth is how thick his skin is, and he's impenetrable. But no, it's a fine movie. I think in the DC lineup, it's definitely not the worst. It really lands in the middle. I was entertained. It got dragged down by the ending. Otherwise, like it was on track to be like a 6 out of 10 for me. But then it really didn't work by the end for me. And then there were like generally there were quite a few funny jokes as well. Yeah, hit me.
Can I ask a question? I've heard a lot. Okay, so I haven't seen Black Adam because I didn't want to go to the movies and waste my time on something like that. I'll wait for it to come out on streaming or something. I heard a lot of mediocre things, a lot of negative things, but I heard a lot of positive things about Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate.
His character is really interesting. I didn't know anything about their character, and I think he's fun. Out of that constellation, I'm blanking on the character's name, but there's another guy in the Justice Society.
Adam Smasher?
Not Adam Smasher. There's another character. I have to look it up. I don't have it in front of me. But his like banter with Black Adam worked quite well. He was playing Hawkman, I think. I think Pierce Brosnan doesn't have a bigger part to play. I wasn't the biggest fan on his performance. I think Hawkman was my personal highlight. I think it's worth watching if you are lightly interested in DC. but you don't need to rush out to theaters. Go see Bros. Go see Bros instead. That's a movie that's not getting enough box office credit. So yeah, that's Black Adam. And then Amsterdam, a movie that was after its initial reception in the States, scrapped internationally. I don't know if you're still getting it in Australia, but there was a press screening that I was about to attend for this film a couple of days ago. They just completely scrapped the release for Switzerland, and I think for the whole of Europe, and it's just not releasing the film. I managed to get my hands on it and watch this one, and it's basically filled to the brim with every character that has like a speaking role is cast by like really famous actors. And it just feels like it's just doing that, and the plot and the script don't give them like too much. There's obviously like a lot of talent on screen, but it just doesn't come together for anything. And for a movie that's basically a murder mystery type of thing in a time period of like the late, well, right after World War One in 1918, and then spans I think until like the early 20s. It just doesn't do anything interesting other than having a bunch of famous people on screen. And I think this movie was initially even before COVID, because I think this was shot like right before COVID or around that time, was $60 million for a movie like that. That's just like, it doesn't make sense. It's just way too much money, even if it's a period piece. And then it costs another
it's already
20.
released in Australia at this point.
Oh,
as
it's
well, by the
already
way.
out. Oh, okay.
It's already
Well,
out.
yeah. But then I guess it got the same release date as the States, but the second rollout for more international audiences got scrapped in a lot of places.
So I
But yeah.
I was reading up about Amsterdam because I was keen to see it. I thought the trailers looked really exciting. Similar thing. I haven't run to the cinemas to see it because I didn't realize it was out. I didn't realize it was out because there was no advertising campaign for it. It was just
No,
like
wasn't really, no.
I literally just looked right now, and we're recording on a Sunday. That yes, it's out. Because all of my cinemas are obviously trying to blast me with Black Adam, and they're still trying to get me to see Don't Worry Darling a second time because it's still showing me Don't Worry Darling. But if I scroll right to the bottom of the page, just before I get to the international films, there we go. Oh, and Wog Boys Forever, Australian film. Amsterdam, excellent. There it is.
It's interesting because like Amsterdam starts with A. It should be at the top of the list, but I guess it goes by,
No, they show
by
it.
amount
They
of
show it
showtimes.
in the amount of showtimes on these ones. But yeah, it's in the now showing page. It is pretty high up in the now showing page, funnily enough. But
Right.
still not as high as still Ticket to Paradise is still higher than this one.
Well, that's a new release, I think, for this week, but I haven't seen that one, by the way. But yeah, Amsterdam, David O. Russell, and a big director who's had other big ensemble films, but this one is by far his biggest ones. Like as well in the cameos and just even like the to the supporting cast. It's all really stacked, and it just feels like a waste because they're not really given much here. And I just kept myself I just kept like tuning out while I was watching it. It really is a bit underwhelming. And then I watched Dahmer, the Netflix series, 8-part Netflix series. Yeah, because it was that huge phenomenon of just reaching incredible popularity. I wasn't really interested in it because I kind of knew what I was gonna get, that type of let's do a serial killer portrait. And I feel like unless it's set in the Mindhunter sphere where we get two people who go in to talk to these people and get something out of it and like how it's affecting their lives, I think it's pretty perverse to give a portrait to a killer to maybe like see it, understand him, or see the horrific acts that he does. I haven't really read up on how the like families have responded to this, but to me it's always when I look at the Netflix homepage and you look for the true crime stuff, it is incredibly exploitative and like a lot of times cheaply produced just because it's consumed a lot. And I don't think Dahmer brings anything interesting to the table that's new, although I gotta give it that it's got a solid lead performance. and it's also shot pretty effectively. But I just don't know if I want that type of story to be told that way. I just felt it was kind of gross at times. And it did focus on, like, the effect it had and the aftermath and stuff like that. I just wasn't. It gave me this odd feeling watching it. But I mean, I
So
don't have to give a recommendation or not because, like, pretty much everyone has already seen it. So yeah,
I know you
that's
said
that.
I know you kind of dropped it in there with
Yeah,
Mindhunter, but
yeah.
isn't just Mindhunter one of the best crime like criminal shows
Netflix.
ever? Netflix, like, do more of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
and
Why did
it's
they
not
drop it?
done. It's yeah. It makes me furious each time I bring it up because I watched it with my little brother. He's a huge David Fincher fan, and every time we kind of slightly touch on that subject, he's in a bad mood for like at least half an hour because it pisses him off so much. And I
Do
can understand
you?
that because it's so good. And why do you scrap that show? It
It's
just
interesting
yeah
that obviously Netflix, they're trying to legitimize themselves as a not only as a streaming service but as a production company, and they really
yeah
try to put their I would say their worst foot forward when it comes to showing what they can actually do. Like, I don't understand why they
yeah
decided to scrap Mindhunter and then go for all of these kind of cheaply produced shows and almost documentaries. Because you watch
yeah.
Dharma, you watch the obviously the I guess the I wouldn't say fictional, but I guess the dramatic retelling
Dramatic
of it.
retelling,
And
right?
then
Yeah.
immediately it's followed up by like 4 or 5 different, like, Netflix documentaries where it's
Conversations
like
with yeah
conversations with and the tapes and this, and it's like Netflix seems to, instead of doing a show like Mindhunter, which really was phenomenal writing, really good storytelling, it really got you into the mind of these really insane people, and
mhm,
honestly became, a interesting story to tell because they were kind of creeping on this, at this time, what was it, set in the 70s, that, serial killers weren't a real thing, and they were interesting, like, entering this world that was not known. And
yeah.
now Netflix is like, look, remember this person from this season of
You know,
Mindhunter? We're doing a whole thing on them.
yeah.
Netflix is
I
a
mean, I
weird
got it.
relationship fantasy with serial killers.
Yeah, it has, and I think it tries to justify um this dramatic retelling of Dharma by making it really political because like a large part of the film focuses on the neighbor who notices stuff really early on, and you get her like in pretty much you get her in every episode, and a lot of the stuff is like actually the encounters, the repeated encounters of him killing people, where it really goes through the whole like notion, which it's got to be like so traumatizing to have that dramatically retold out there for the victims' families. But I don't know. I don't know if that's like if they don't mind or whatever. But it does focus a lot on the victims and also the political ground in the states to even let something like that happen where the police like ignores it as well because it's in a mostly immigrant African American neighborhood, a more poorer neighborhood, and they put that in there, but it feels like it's just it kind of has to be the focus. Like, I don't know, it doesn't feel genuine, I think is
Mm.
what I'm trying to say. It doesn't feel like there's an actual point of why we do need a portrait and a dramatic retelling of this. It's just because serial killers make for great stories, because people die and it's based on true events. And I just, that's just something about that rubs me the wrong way. That however like good your story is, or your storytelling, your visual storytelling, or the technical side of it, I just don't really connect with it. I don't know why we need to see it. And like it goes further because it's been like such a huge hit as well, that
Mm.
I feel like the connection we have with it, because a lot of young people saw that, although it's technically it's 18 plus, but I've seen a lot of like TikToks with really young people in the film space talking about it. And it's like, or like just generally it being out there, and it just feels a bit weird that we have this odd connection with serial killers where obviously we're glamorizing them in a way. While we're condemning them, we're also glamorizing them by giving them the ground floor. And I think Mindhunter really balanced that that in a good way.
Yeah.
Anyways, I saw two more things. One of them being out now on Apple TV Plus, Raymond and Ray, a little family drama with Ethan Hawke and Ewan McGregor. Really pleasantly surprised by that one. I think it doesn't do something crazy when it comes to the writing, but it's about two half brothers whose dad just died, and he's been a dick for their whole lives, and they kind of have different opinions on how we should honor him, how we actually grapple with the fact, the trauma that he has bestowed onto us as his children. And I liked it. It's a good easy watch over on Apple TV Plus. Raymond and Ray gets my recommendation. And then lastly on Hulu, or I guess on Star internationally, on Disney Plus, we got Rosaline with Caitlin Dever. We get the typical, really well-known Shakespearean story of Romeo and Juliet, but Rosaline is thrown in there as, I guess, as the romantic interest of Romeo before he met Juliet, and it's a funny retelling. I think it's definitely aiming for like a teen audience, but I think it does that pretty well. So light recommendations for Rosaline. And yeah, that's all the stuff
you've seen
that
this,
I've been
right?
watching.
You can see.
I've
this,
seen
right?
Morbius. Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
Morbius.
but no, but you can see that I've put it there, right?
I just saw it
Okay,
now.
cool,
I
sweet.
didn't see it before.
Can you
Yeah,
do me
no,
a
it's
favor?
in
Can
the-
you
it's
zoom
in-
into that? Can you zoom in on that?
God damn it! I thought we were. It's, the editing is
bro.
already so much
Appreciate
work. Okay,
Thanks, bro.
you put this in like last minute. You wanted to talk about 2022.
Oh yeah, I just wanted
releases?
to. I know we've already, we're a little bit into the recording. I didn't know how long we were gonna. We had some good discussions. So I just want to have one last discussion
Yeah.
because we're getting to the end of October. We've got 2 months
Yeah.
left of 2022. How
Mhm.
much more shit do you have to watch? Because I have got a watch list that is getting longer and longer by the day, and I know that when
Yeah.
December comes around, I am going to be watching every other movie
Yeah.
known to man. So I just want to know
I mean,
where
I was-
you are
yeah.
up to at the moment with what you need to watch to put together your watch list.
I mean, for new releases that are coming out over the next few months, I think my festival run has helped out quite well, because like for the next few weeks when we'll cover a movie, I actually get to rewatch it, or I don't need to do that much prep anymore, so I can focus more on a bunch of other films. But for me, I don't have the most popular one that I haven't seen is Minions: The Rise of Gru. I don't think I'll need to watch that one for my top 10. There's definitely She Said, Women Talking, Empire of Light. There's Babylon. There's Steven Spielberg's The Fablemans, but a lot of those are getting releases in 2023 for me. So I don't know how many
Yeah.
of those I'll be able to see. That if it comes to like the December watch list of what I need to catch up on, I had the idea of watching every single submission for the international like Oscar. I've seen like
Mhm.
I think 15 of them so far, and there's a lot of countries that submit something. So there's a ton to watch. I definitely won't be able to do that because like just the logistics of getting those films is gonna be a ton
nightmare.
of work. Oh yeah, I forgot. Glass Onion is another one that's another big release that could be really good. Pinocchio. That's Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It's been getting raving reviews. There's Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. But yeah, it's definitely a bit different when it comes to the films that have released that I haven't seen. There's really not a ton of them. And I was planning to give you like a watch list by the end of November, so you got all of December, and we'll do like a top 10 of our favorites of 2022 that will release like right at the start of 2023. But we'll definitely have to go over it individually. I don't know. Do you have anything that stands out on your list of stuff you need to catch up on?
There's a couple of things that I've been wanting to watch. Never got around to Where the Crawdad Sings. Would like to definitely see that. Glass Onion
Right.
is another one that's yet to come out. A number of
Mhm.
the festival run stuff that I haven't seen. Tar, I really want to see
Tar,
that.
yeah.
Bones and All. It's stuff that
Mhm.
you've already seen, but I'm yet to see that I think will probably make it onto my watch list this year. Still got to
Yeah.
obviously watch Pearl. There's just a number of things that I'm yet to be able to get my hands on. I've got about, if I go to just the 2022 stuff, I've got about 52 things on my watch list that I've got to watch.
Wow.
Including the stuff I've still got to watch going forward that are not yet on my watch list that you're going to throw at me. What are we doing next week? What was the thing we're doing next week? I don't think that's on my watch
All
list.
Quiet on the Western Front.
That's not even on my watch list. I'm watching that next week. So there's obviously a lot of stuff that I'm needing to catch up on. I think a couple of those are actually series. Yeah, I think Pam and Tommy was a TV series that was on there, which doesn't count, obviously. And there's like Miss Marvel and She-Hulk. So there's a couple of things. I would say it's closer to like 45 movies, maybe. Triangle of Sadness is on there. And the Strangers on there. There's just a number of films that I'm yet to be able to get my hands on. So I just wanted to see where you're up to, because top 10 list, man, they're coming soon. They're coming in strong. 2022. There's still a couple of films that I need to see. Banshees of Inisherin. That's the big one. That's like the number one that I have to see, because it's always gonna it's possibly gonna be my number one. You said so. I think so. Ewan made a statement that it's going to be my favorite film of the year, which Ewan, I don't know if you realize, but it's competing with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah. It's competing with Nope. It's competing with what else have I got on my top 10? After Yang. It's competing with Prey. It's competing with obviously the Uncharted movie, which is going to be my number one so far.
Don't forget about free 56 days.
And most importantly, it's competing with Morbius. Zoom back into Morbius. It's competing with Morbius. Sure. The number one film of the year so far. So there's a number of films that I've got to watch, and I've already got a top 10 list. That's what I wanted to get out of this. I've already got a top 10 list so far that I've got my 1 to 10. They're there. I've actually got 20, because I'm still trying to work out the kinks and see what I really like. But funnily enough, it's not highest rated to lowest rated. In my opinion, it's weird that I've got a weird rating system on Letterboxd. But top 10s, they're coming around very shortly to a Letterboxd account near you.
You definitely got to catch up with Close as well, and The Whale. Those are two films that
I've got The Whale on here. What was the other one you said? Close.
Close, yeah. That's more of a me film, because it's sad, and if you're not in the mood to watch sad, you don't like sad. Same with After Sun. I think it's more
holy shit, you gave
contemplative.
It 5 stars.
I did. Again, it's my favorite film since like Parasite, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I really, really enjoyed that one. There's this Broker and Decision to Leave that I think you should also catch up on. God's Creatures, I think, is also something you haven't seen. And then probably Noah Baumbach's White Noise, So there's a lot for you to watch, and hopefully we'll give you enough time in December so you can go on those binges of what I consider like stuff that could potentially make it into your top 10. So yeah, not like we don't need to do like a series recap, because that's just so much work of all the shows that come out.
So much work.
And even I, who's like trying to watch like ton of stuff, can't keep up with that. I think the only other film that I'm really keen for, that I don't know when it will release, is the Irish submission for the Oscars, The Quiet Girl. We are having someone who just went to a film festival for us and got to see a couple of films that didn't release, and I'll link to it right here. But I do have a quick little discussion with him. And The Quiet Girl was one of those films that was on his watch list, and I've heard some great things about it. So I'll keep my eyes open for that one as well. But yeah, lots to come. I'm looking forward to a discussion by the end of the year about the films worth checking out from 2022. And now, without further ado, let's get into Bros, my man, and let's talk about that film. Two men with commitment problems attempt a relationship. a simple plot line, easy enough said, really works as a rom-com that notably is different in a way that it's a studio rom-com with a main cast that is filled with LGBTQ plus people, and is also basically just a gay romance story. That's at the core of it. It really doesn't try to appeal to a more generalized straight audience. It really exudes the character of just putting that out on screen, and we haven't really gotten that. I can't remember anything that comes close to Bros in how big it goes with just the rom-com aspect of it, and I think for that alone it's worth checking out, and I think it's a very fun film, and it comes from a well-versed comedy director, Nicholas Stoller, who's done the two Neighbors films, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. The film has been received quite positively on Letterboxd, a 3.5, IMDb a 6.5, and on Metacritic a 77. I think that's kind of high for a comedy. They, as well as horror films, do kind of tend to scoot a bit lower because, comedic taste is different for everyone. But it comes in at a runtime of almost 2 hours, which definitely comes with the produced by Judd Apatow label, as he extends his films usually by like about a half an hour. That unfortunately Bros can't escape from. That's also a bit of a problem that this film has. Is produced by Universal and had a budget of 22 million, only grossed about 11.5 million domestically so far, and is now getting a international rollout. That's why we're talking about it today, and it's also already out on VOD if you want to go watch it at home. And yeah, it stars Billy Eichner in the lead role. Lachlan, let's jump into this. We'll keep our discussion pretty open, so there will be spoilers for the film. So if you haven't already, go seek out Bros, and if you don't mind spoilers from here on out, spoiler warning for you. But Lachlan, what were your general thoughts on Bros?
Pretty damn positive. It was really fun to watch. It's quite rare these days. I often have this discussion, when was the last time you went to a movie to laugh a little bit? And Bros definitely sets out to humor you, to make you laugh. And for 70% of the jokes that are on there, which for majority of them, they're quite meta humor in poking fun of, as an example, poking fun of Queer Eye and poking fun of, legitimate things that are established in the real world, let's say, because, it's a movie and it's making fun of spoofing certain things. It lands, like the comedy lands in, as I said, 70% of the jokes that are said. Obviously, it opens with a podcast joke, which I thought was quite funny, that the main character is a podcaster, and it's definitely having a poke at podcasters and in general. And then it moves on to a joke about, making fun of Queer Eye. And it's the humor starts from this poking fun of, X thing or object or profession, and then it moves into this really interesting story, and how the humor is weaved throughout is very natural. And it's all come down to the writing. I think the writing of this film is spot on. It is just, the conversations flow, the humor lands, it's natural, it's not overdone. I don't think there's any scene that I felt was just, it didn't feel like it was too much, except for maybe one scene I could break down a bit later. But for me, it was really fun to just watch, to just fall in love with these two characters and this, relationship that they've got going. I really enjoyed my time with Bros.
Can I guess what scene it was where you didn't like the writing as much?
Sure, go ahead.
Is it the dinner with the love interest's family?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, then, we'll get to that later. I think for me, it's the jokes is, like you said, 70-30. I think for me, it was like 80-20. I watched this at a press screening at the ZFF. So you got a bunch of us press people who, they can be really quiet when it's a dramatic film. They can also be really quiet when it's supposed to be a comedic film. For me, I think it was definitely like the loudest chuckler in the theater, but it's such a fun film to watch with an audience, even if it's a small audience. I think this film really deserves a great theater run because it feels like a great cinematic experience with people in the theater with you. And for me, like it was more 80-20 when it comes to the jokes. You know, it really landed like a lot of them. But I feel like I just kind of teased that because it's kind of my opinion. That plot point of the having the parents there who might be a bit more conservative when it comes to I guess how gay he lets himself to be, you know, how secluded he is in certain aspects. That feels like it needs to be a plot point in a gay story, and it always has been like the tragedy of like not being accepted. But I think it goes against the I guess the lead who is so confident in his own person that he doesn't have that anymore. He's cut off to people. But where it arrives at is like that relationship between the two. I think it uses that really beautifully, of like where they kind of open up about their own shortcomings while both having that male toxicity in them of like needing to not share something. And then when it happens, it's all the more impactful. So you know, apart from being a rom-com where we want the guy to end up with the other guy, it's a bit more than that because it has some emotional moments in there that don't feel shoehorned in, where you need like a ton of music to feel anything, but it actually works quite well with Billy Eichner as the lead for me. I was really pleasantly surprised by the film of how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Billy Eichner, excellent,
Yes.
phenomenal. He's
Yeah.
obviously the writer of this film, which is obviously where we
Yes.
get the comedy. Very funny dude. He nails it. Obviously talking about, you know, the family and that stuff. I found
Mhm.
those aspects of this film, you know, the family, the National Museum of LGBTQ plus, like these are aspects of the story that were very over the top, and you needed that
Yeah.
because if this was a rom-com and it didn't have those, I guess, those aspects to it, because obviously this isn't a traditional rom-com as we've all come to know. It's a rom-com about two guys, so it's obviously
Yeah.
having to go down this avenue of, instead of you know, maybe being, you know, the traditional Romeo Juliet, you know, the family against the that family and things like that, Aaron's family is a bit more traditional, and he's definitely got that uh, straight guy look to him that they play on quite a bit with him end up being gay, and it's the same with his high school friend who is straight and then ends up being gay. It's
Yeah.
a over the topness of some of these aspects that kind of add a bit more humor to it.
Mhm.
Funnily enough, I found that dinner scene, you know, a bit much. But the
Mhm.
comedy side of it was where I felt like it brought it down to another level, because there are definitely some realistic aspects to this film. You could definitely go into a restaurant and have this very heated conversation, and a restaurant that obviously does a bit of performance to it could all of a sudden start their performance. And I thought, oh, that's quite funny. And it's the same when
Yeah.
Aaron and Bobby are having their big, I guess, makeup scene where they're, you
Mhm.
know, outside. I think it's like a train station or something, and all of a sudden this guy with a bike walks through the scene and is trying to park his bike at this very, you know, emotionally intense scene. Just some random dude trying to park his bike and it's making a noise, and you know, Aaron comes
Yeah.
along and just parks the bike there. It's like there's these aspects that are a bit over the top, but they're brought down with this humor that isn't totally out of the realm of a possibility. I thought the over
Yeah.
the topness of how the national history of the LGBTQ plus community, you know, this whole museum dedicated to that. The question I left, like, leaving the film was: is Abraham Lincoln bi or gay? That's the question I have to ask, right? Is
Which is
Abraham
yeah.
Lincoln bi or gay? because that's over the top. That's a funny question. There's all these historical figures that they're like, man, are they bi? Are they gay? Are they lesbian? Like, what is the question? Like, and that's very funny. And in that little board of people, you have this kind of rivalry between gay people, bi people, and the lesbians. It's like there's this rivalry in between this said group, the LGBT group. There's a rivalry between them,
Yeah.
in that scene
I
where
found that
he's
very
like,
comedic. It
oh,
works.
so
It
funny,
works
right?
so well.
When
Yeah.
they go to shut
And-
down the Abraham Lincoln exhibition, and then it's
Yeah.
like, lesbians, let's go. It's like, oh, okay, they're a group there. They're going to hang out. They're going to fight
Yeah.
with each other. And they're going to fight for each other. It's like this over-the-topness that this film has that adds this extra layer of humor to this film.
Yeah, and I think it's like working with stereotypes, but they're rooted and made and written by people who are actually living that, and it feels very authentic. And then the humor just works well because like this could have very much just been, okay, we got a gay movie, we want to attract an LGBTQ plus I guess positive space of people who an audience that might be interested in that type of film, and then it could just like be for representation's sake there's everyone around the table. But it couldn't be further from that because it works so naturally in the story that everyone has a place at that table, and then the discussions that spawn from that whenever we cut back to it it's incredibly funny. It's just, and it also goes by every single person around that table is incredibly talented for their own sake. As the I just know I don't know what his name is, but the dean from Community in that role as the bi guy who's usually the butt of the joke because the bi guy is the most, I guess, straight person in the room, and then they poke fun at him and it's just like it's very funny. And just the jokes land, and that's all you want out of a rom-com, essentially. I think falls down for me because I do think it subverts some of the expectations that you'd have for a rom-com of how I guess it goes into polyamorous stuff where it's just like a lot of different things are shown and how quickly you move on, and then is it even about that guy anymore, or like it's more about him finding himself as well. But at the end of the day, I think where we arrive at is quite a conventional ending for a rom-com where the two of them end up together, which is totally fine. It doesn't need to be in a way where they don't end up together. But I could have completely have also gone with down the route of it's a bit of a different thing that we end up on not just like the typical rom-com ending. But I think for like the trademark film that you can point to, so this is the gay rom-com studio film. I think to have Bros as your representative is a great thing to have.
Another question.
Yes.
Does Billy Eichner not like Brokeback Mountain? Like, I know there's a lot of jokes about straight actors playing gay characters, but he really rides home the whole I don't like the gay cowboys played by straight actors joke. He has it like 4 or 5 times. It's an excellent movie to shit on, but I get his point.
Yeah.
I get it. I do get it. There's a number of just, again, I want to go back to the meta comedy of poking fun of, real life things, and then either A, shitting on them for being a bit over the top, like just having the Queer Eye guys cry over something and then pan to Billy Eichner being like, this is not sad. Like, it is one of the funniest things. Because I have watched Queer Eye and I've gone, why are they crying? Like, this is not sad. And I was like, yes, that is perfect. And then, there's another line where it's the scene where they come out of the movie and Aaron runs into his high school mate, and it's just a straight woman just going, oh yeah, gay guys are my jam, and it's like the only thing she says. And then you move on. Like, that's the only line she says. And I was crying. So again, I want to go back to the point that like there are some really good like one-liners, some zingers, and I was just crying just because in this rom-com, gay rom-com, this line just works. because if you are kind of aware of the LGBTQ plus community, like straight people interact with the gay community from an outsider perspective, it can kind of be awkward. Which
Yeah.
this Ewan and I, we're not going to assume anything, but I'm a straight guy. It can be kind of awkward to talk about like a movie that you're not a part of, and it was
Right.
really funny. One of the first jokes was, "Oh yeah, then I got what about my movie deal? Oh yeah, it's a producer. We're talking about how I should make a gay comedy that's going to relate to straight white guys going to go see the movie with their girlfriends, kind of thing." And I was like, is he
Yeah.
making fun of me now all of a sudden? Like,
Yeah. No, I think that's a lot of what he's poking fun at is also the straight audiences that or how they interact with LGBTQ plus media, but also with the people. Which I think that kind of ties it over with the reception of this film because Billy Eichner has like then gone out publicly, I think in tweets where he said because the box office reception for the film hasn't been great because this I think should have made probably double its budget, which would have been like around 40-50 million in the States alone before it goes globally. Because I think in globally to distribute, it's a bit harder. There's also exclusions made for countries that definitely won't be showing the film. So it's a bit of a disappointment box office wise, and he had his frustrations out and basically said that I guess in the place like where we live in, I guess straight people don't go see this film. Kind of alienating that audience for blaming them for not having the box office success. I don't know if you can completely put it on that, but more that a lot of the rom-coms, which we don't get like too many of, apart from maybe cheaply produced ones that are on streamers, are usually backed with a lot of like I guess well-known actors that look at these two and they're gonna be romantically involved. That's usually the premise. Whereas here, it's not really the cast that brings you in, but having the LGBTQ plus or a gay romance story at the focus, and that's a bit harder to sell, not because gay, but because the actors as himself, like Billy Eichner, is probably most well known if you go by, I guess, the white male and female audiences for his role in Pitch Perfect. I just assume. And I don't know if they'll like show up. So I don't know if that's like the reason that like straight people are just no, they don't go and see this gay film. As I don't think that's the reason. But it's still disappointing to see that this movie isn't really doing as well as it, in my opinion, for its quality should be doing.
I know we both agree that this film's production is incredibly like it's a level that I'm not seeing any success come from, and it's kind of interesting that
Yeah,
this really good writing. I think that cinematically wise, it's like the cinematography is great. Like it
yeah,
looks
that as well. Yeah.
really clean. It's so clean.
Mhm.
Every shot is just almost perfectly framed, and it feels like you're getting enough of the atmosphere, enough of them. And I also want to point out the lighting coincidentally, like not coincidentally, but just I kept getting engaged with the lighting in this film. I just felt like it was
Right.
just never made me feel uncomfortable. I've definitely watched movies where I
Mhm.
go, "Oh, this is a bit harsh or this is a bit soft," and but like this just always seemed to be hitting its mark. Yeah, you can't go out, blaming people for a reception of a film. I guess rom-coms,
Yeah.
you know, cinema's just coming back. I don't think people want to go out and see rom-coms right now. More than
Yeah.
anything. But how much is this film currently box office? What
Well,
box
only
office
11 and
numbers
a
is this
half,
film?
but it's only domestic gross so far. And I think it's been out for about 2 or 3 weeks in the States.
Yeah.
So definitely on the low end, even for a rom-com. But I guess you'd have to compare it to other films, especially like Judd Apatow films. And you can see that I guess his last film ended up being a streamer and not a rom-com with The Bubble, The King of Staten Island, released in 2020. So that's an exception. But that movie made about 2 million.
Mm.
It didn't have a domestic release, I think. And then his last produced films is from 2018, Juliet Naked. That movie made 4 million international like total. Like his stuff doesn't always make a ton of money. The biggest one, I guess, was from 2017 with The Big Sick. What that he produced, didn't direct, that made like 57 million. But also something like, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, only made about 10 million. That one was also a bit of a letdown for like the quality of movie it is. So it's not like it's because of the topic that films like this, I guess, quote unquote, bomb. It can have a lot of different reasons. But you can
Yes,
kind of
if
see
we
the
want to compare
correlation.
it to something, if you want to
Yeah,
compare it to another rom-com this year, a straight rom-com with a very
yeah,
similar runtime, about an hour and 44,
yeah.
with Julia Roberts and George Clooney, two very big names. Tickets to
Right.
Paradise,
You're right. Just
domestically,
came out.
6.4 million. Worldwide, it's done 81, but so far, Bros has only been domestic. So,
Wait, yeah.
George Clooney, big seller. Julia Roberts, big seller. Not very successful rom-com in the States. And it's been,
Wait, how many did
you
you
know,
say did it make? Did it make so far?
IMDb is saying a gross of 6.4 mil in
Yeah, but
US.
that's still so that movie has been out for I think 6 days. It just came out this Friday, if I got that correctly. But maybe that's also international gross. But the domestic gross for Bros in the first 3 days was 3.5 million. So that's still lower than
Okay, so
Ticket
it
to
is lower.
Paradise. Yeah, it is a bit lower, but I think Ticket to Paradise also is. I mean, it is lower, but I think Ticket to
We're
Paradise
doing a
also
live
is
comparison, by the way,
already.
everybody.
You looked at domestic release. I mean, Ticket to Paradise internationally has already made 85 million. So that's a big film. But yeah, 6.5 of those are coming from the domestic box office, and it's been out since 3 days.
You know
And
what? I'm
yeah.
wrong. There we go. I'm wrong. So it hasn't been as successful as what other films
But
can be,
Julia
but
Roberts and George Clooney is also a totally different demographic for that. And it's just like, there's a lot of old people who just go see a film because they know the person. That's why I said like it doesn't have that same star power. And I think it doesn't need to have that because then you just see the people they've played before. And I think everyone's really authentically a character in the LGBTQ community in this, and that's why it works so well. We don't need a straight actor to play a trans person or something like that. So like I think for that it's great to have, and it's also just give us more of exactly this, and hopefully there's one that hits a bit more. And maybe it has a great run on VOD. I mean, it's out right now. It's releasing if you don't live in the States. It's already been out. I don't know if it's still playing in theaters in the US, but it's now rolling out here. I think it's got to start later this week. So yeah, go give it a watch if you can. It's really one of the funniest films I've seen all year. I'd have to compare, but it's up there for like the funniest film of the year, certainly. So definitely gets a warm a warm recommendation from the both of us. But Lachlan, where did you arrive at as a rating for Bros?
I gave Bros
How many Bros out of 5?
3.5 Bros out of 5.
3.5.
3.5.
You can't go a half, bro. You can't just half,
I
bro.
didn't do it.
Man.
Couldn't do it. I did a half, bro.
Right. Okay. Well, for me, I'll round it up to a full bro and give you 4 out of 5 bros for that one. Go check it out. Bros out in theaters now. And then let's have a look at what's coming later this week. First up, on October 25th, a Tuesday, we are getting the first 2 in a total of 8 short films, short little stories in Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities over on Netflix. Then, and they'll be airing 2 a night for the 4 following days. Then we got The Good Nurse out on Wednesday, October 26th, as well on Netflix. A bunch of Netflix releases that week. On that Friday, we are getting the 6th season of Big Mouth, as well as the animated Wendell and Wild, and a movie that we'll be talking about next week, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's already out playing in theaters. I think it's worth checking out on the big screen if you can. But that's the film that we'll be talking about next week. And I just saw another, not nail in the coffin, but something that stings for everyone who's interested to see Tar, which includes you, Lachlan. It's getting a wide release. It expands into wide release in the States right now. So go seek that out if you are available, if you
I
are able
will.
to see it. I think, Lachlan, for you, it's at the start of January that it releases in theaters. So hopefully we'll get a VOD release before that, so you'll get to catch up with Tar as well. One of the best films of the year,
But
in my
Kate
opinion.
Blanchett is from my country.
Give me the film. She actually
Give me the film.
grew up here.
She's literally born. Whatever. I don't care anymore.
She
Get
was
things
born
out
on
of
the island. Anyways, Lachlan, if people were to seek out a film recommendation right now, which way would you send them this week?
My pick of the week is a bit of an interesting one. Obviously, we wanted to make our pick of the weeks something that we've seen before and something that kind of, relates to this. So
To the
I decided
topic,
to go with an LGBTQ plus film that I've always really enjoyed, and it's an Australian film talking about things from my own country. Something that Ewan's never seen before as well. This is
I
even
haven't, no.
more exciting. It is The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It's from 1994. It's won an Oscar. It made a massive thing in Cannes. Guy Pearce, Hugo Weaving. You've got Terrence Stamp as two drag queens and a transgender woman. It's fun. It's just a really fun time. If you haven't seen it, it's it's an exciting film to watch. Really ahead of its time. Really recommend going to go watch that.
One of the I guess called out films where straight guys play someone from the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah,
But
true.
I think in a like from what I can see from the reception, yeah, it's been received really well. So I don't assume there's like something in there that makes it like, ooh, cancel, don't watch that one. So I'll be looking forward to that. I might check it out for myself because it's been on my watch list. I didn't even notice that it was on my watch list. So go give that a watch. I'm going to give another recommendations. This week there was a lot of representation for the gay bros, but what about the lesbian sisters? I'm going to shout out But I'm a Cheerleader from 1999 with Natasha Lyonne. What a true and iconic classic. It's a funny film. It's also a film that has a lot of like dramatic tension that works quite well. So go give But I'm a Cheerleader a watch. And yeah, that's it for this week. Next week we'll be talking about All Quiet on the Western Front. In the meantime, you can go follow Lachlan and myself on all of our socials. Those are linked below. Same goes for the link tree for Quiet on Set that will take you to all of our socials. Then don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to not miss a new episode of the Quiet on Set podcast. The show is powered by Cineman and comes to you each Tuesday. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.